Welcome to Carousel. I'm your host, Marcel Soviero, and tonight we're going to hop on the carousel as we do every week and talk to interesting people about interesting things. Tonight my guests are Scott and Kitty Kuhner, who have gone around the world not once but twice by boat, and they're here to tell us about their adventures. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you. So tell me the story of how you got involved in becoming world travelers.
Well, it goes a long way back, but I had started sailing in Westport, Connecticut when I was like 14 years old.
Okay.
And rather than race, I always wondered what was around the corner. And then I got out of college and I bought a 23-foot sailboat. A month later, I met my wife, Kitty, and 6 weeks later, I asked her to marry me. 2 months later, we were married, and we took our honeymoon on a 2-week trip on our 23-footer up to Nantucket and back, and she loved it.
I loved it, except when you told me off Martha's Vineyard it was so rough that maybe I should put my life jacket on.
There you go.
I just remembered that.
And then I gave her a book written by Eric and Susan Hiscock, who had sailed around the world on their 30-foot boat in the late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
And they were the gurus of sailing at the time. And Kitty read the book, and I guess she felt...
Yeah, Eric and Susan Hiscock, we were in our late 20s.
Okay.
And Eric and Susan were in their 40s. And I said to myself, gee, if Susan Hiscock can do this in her 40s, I can do this in my late 20s.
That's
and
great.
they made it sound not only exciting, but that if you really were careful, you took your best weather that you could get, you stayed in the trade winds, it could be a fabulous trip.
Wow.
And they were my inspiration, and Scott's too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the next year, after we went back on the 23-footer up to Nantucket and back, she said, yeah, I gave her the idea of sailing around the world, and she agreed, and so we looked for a boat, and we found a boat, a sister ship of which had been the first fiberglass boat to sail around the world, and was a 30-foot Seawind Ketch. And we bought the boat and spent that winter fixing it up. The next summer, we took a shakedown cruise up to Maine and back, and in September, quit our jobs.
Wow.
And when I went to quit my job, I was with another group of guys starting an institutional department at E.F. Hutton,
Okay.
at a brokerage firm, and we just started to make that work. And I got a decent bonus so that I was able to buy the boat, and then I quit. And my boss looked at me and said, "You're quitting? Who's hiring you?" I said, "Nobody's hiring me. I'm going to go around the world."
Wow.
And he said, "What are you, crazy?" He says, "If you want to quit, work for another 4 or 5 years. Then if you want to quit, you can quit for good." I said, "Bob, who knows what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years?
Good for
we
you.
want to do it now." So
We both quit jobs that we loved. It wasn't that we were trying to get away from anything. There was just something we wanted to do, which was to go
right.
cruising.
But that's an interesting path. You had gone to Nantucket and you had gone to Maine, and then you're going around the world. So
well, it was a dream
we're
I had
gonna
always
try.
had.
you had it.
I
yeah.
always had the dream. And my definition of success in life is not how much money you make. It's how you live your life. At the end of your life, you can do like my father did, said, "Oh, I've had a great life." That to me is success.
That's wonderful.
And
yes.
you know, if this is something you really want to do, try to do it.
So you both did it. You got on this boat, and we're going back to what, 1971?
71, yeah.
So we don't have electronics and GPS and all that great stuff to keep in touch. So what was that like? I mean, you're really on your
We
own.
never even thought we had no electronics. We
Amazing.
couldn't use a radio to call for help. We did finally get a radio in New Zealand, but that would only have a range of 120 miles, so you still couldn't call for help. But we could
had
talk
to
to
use
some
the
other
sextant
boats.
to navigate.
And we used the sextant,
Yeah.
the same way the old
We
explorers
took
did.
lessons at the Hayden Planetarium.
Really?
Yeah.
To be
And
able
then
to
you just
find-
had to accept the fact that when you're out there, you're on your own. It's up to you. And it never occurred to us that we couldn't do it. Eric and Susan Hiscock did it. You get rough weather, you shorten down sail, you know, you don't try to keep pounding along, you just, you know, you take storm tactics.
Right.
And we had to do that a number of times, but that's the way it was.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So what were you most, what was the best part of having done this?
What would you say?
Wow, the best part of having done this, well, frankly, is seeing all these other parts of the world and how wonderful people are. And to me, one of the very best, if not the best part about cruising on your own boat is that you're taking your home with you. And you can invite people that you meet on other boats and ashore, local people, to come out to the boat and just have a glass of Tang and popcorn, and everybody's in heaven. And then, you know, they invite you back ashore again, and it's just wonderful to have a place to invite people to come to, I think.
Yeah.
That was my favorite
That
part.
sounds wonderful.
And just to add to that, to me, it's not about just sailing,
Yeah.
accomplishing this across the ocean. Oh, wow, isn't that a beautiful sunset? Isn't that a beautiful mountain? And then go on.
And get to the next thing.
The real benefit, the real thrill you get is meeting other people of other cultures and being absorbed into their culture and see how they live, and you show them how we do. And it was really excellent. For example, when we were in the Marquesas, okay,
French Polynesia.
in French Polynesia. And in fact, if I wanted to, I could point,
Yeah.
and it's right about in here,
Okay.
okay? And we met, well, there were two people. One, we came into Nukahiva in Taiohae Bay, and we met Maurice McKittrick, who ran a little general store there. And he had a little guest book. We signed the guest book, and we helped him. He wanted to open up, he was building another room for a bar. And so we painted ourselves, and another boat was there. We painted on the wall of that thing, the Taiohae Bay Yacht Club.
Oh,
When we went back, years later, he remembered us, brought us in to the room to show us this. He came out to our
it was
boat
still
for dinner.
there.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it was
that's
really
a great
good.
story.
And then we went just around the corner to another bay, and it's typically was called Danielle's Bay, Danielle and Antoinette. And we had them out to the boat, and we went hunting with them, and it was really fantastic. And then when we came back, 16 years later, they remembered us. Actually, Antoinette remembered Kitty as we're walking up the path. And I realized that the reason she didn't recognize me, she recognized her, right?
That's
she didn't
amazing.
recognize me
Yeah.
because on the first trip I had a full beard. Now I was clean shaven.
And then you were clean shaven.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
We
Well-
had kept in touch with, you know, back then it was just snail mail. of
Right,
course.
yeah, you'd have to write
But we
letters.
had kept in touch with a lot of the local people that we met.
What were some of the biggest challenges in doing this? You know, supplies. What was it?
Frankly, the hardest part, I think, is just getting away from the dock. In other words, organizing everything ashore.
at the
and-
start,
At the start of the trip, yeah, getting everything organized to decide what to put where. And you know, on the first trip, we just had a little car we had to sell because we had a rental apartment, so that was easy. But then where are we going to keep the things that we want to keep that we don't want to take on the boat? And then supplying the boat, of course, is huge.
It must be.
Because you never know how long you're going to be away from a place to get food. So that, I spent a lot of time working on that.
To
Yeah.
work through that.
Yeah.
Well, for example, when we were in Panama, we took 6 months' worth of food on board.
Yeah,
Cases of food, because it was going to be basically it was 4 months before we'd get to a place where we could buy any kind of groceries or
Yeah.
anything
Wow.
again.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. So you had some challenges, you had some exciting things I'm sorry, were you going to say?
I was just going to say, along with not having electronics and using the sextant and
Yeah.
having to prepare,
We-
the winter before we left, we both went to the Hayden Planetarium and took celestial navigation So
Yeah.
Kitty knew how to navigate with the stars as well as I did.
Wow, that's incredible. So you were very prepared, very well thought out. When you set out in 1971, did you know that it was going to be a three-year trip, or you just wound up staying when you made friends and you didn't when you didn't? You know, how
Well,
planned was that?
certain seasons too that you sail in the trade winds, and frankly, if either one of us wasn't happy on this voyage, then that was the end of it, because there's no point in having an unhappy person on a boat. And but luckily, we both loved it.
Oh.
And
And actually, when we left,
yeah,
we had
We-
really planned
yeah.
as far as Australia.
Interesting.
And when we got to Australia, wow, we loved it, and we just wanted to keep going and to see the rest.
you don't want to say, "Oh, we're going to go off and sail around the world," blasely, for example, because if you don't, then everybody goes, "Well, I thought you
What
were going to sail
happened?"
around the world. You only went to Australia."
Right.
So we just kind of decided to play it as we went along, and see how we liked it, and we
you
loved
did
it. Yeah.
You did. Tell me a little bit about the route you took on the first trip.
Can I point?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started here, the Northeast, in the
From
first
New
trip.
York, yeah.
Yeah, and then we came down, went offshore to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, to Panama, and one of the best places
Yeah.
on both trips that we stopped. Everybody asks you, what was your
Yeah,
favorite
I was
place?
gonna do that.
The San Blas Islands in the north coast of Panama, a very unique culture. The Kuna
Wow.
Indians, and when we were there back in 1971, okay, we were there for 4 weeks and saw 2 other sailboats. Now
In
there's
the
like
whole
hundreds,
archipelago. Yeah.
right?
Wow.
Anyway, then from there, we came through the Panama Canal to the Galapagos Islands. And again, that was
Amazing.
well before they, it was a long time ago, and they gave us free reign. We could go anywhere we wanted and
Oh
see
my
everything.
goodness.
And then
Yeah.
from the Galapagos to the Marquesas, French Polynesia, Tahiti, and then to Tonga, and then over to Fiji, and then down from Fiji to New Zealand, and then from New Zealand we came across to Australia, and I got a job.
This is the first trip isn't
Yeah.
on this chart with the mark.
Yeah, and I got a
Yeah.
job in Sydney, Australia,
Yeah, we both
and
did.
just out of the blue, and it was great. Because I was a securities analyst before,
Right.
and a friend of mine had gone from New York to Sydney, Australia, and was working for a firm there, and they were asked to do an analysis of a mining company, et cetera, and
They didn't
have
anyone
anybody to do it.
Yeah.
So
That's
I got the
unbelievable.
job, and that was fantastic. But anyway, from there we go up and then to New Guinea. And New Guinea, this was 1973.
Right.
And so we're 30 years from the war, and it was just as though it was yesterday.
It was what happened yesterday.
Yeah, one
Really?
guy came up to us and he says, "Oh, you're from America? You know Sergeant Joe Dokes? He's from America." Anyway, so then we came across, and then we go to Bali and Indonesia, which was really fantastic.
Oh, I
and
bet.
then down to Christmas Island, Cocos Keeling, and then from there to Mauritius, then around to South Africa, Durban, then to Cape Town, and up to St. Helena, to Brazil, then up to Trinidad. No, where was it, Kitty? Yeah, I think it was,
Wow.
and
Grenada, and then
Grenada.
up through the Eastern Caribbean, and
Yeah.
then back home
then
again.
back home.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
We
and
went
we'll talk about
around-
your second trip
yeah.
being a little bit different than that. But things like getting a job on that trip, this
Yeah.
could not have been planned, right?
No.
Was it even part of your thinking that, okay, we're going to stop at certain points and we're going to make money and work, or?
No, we,
but at the same time, I wasn't going to, I had no idea.
Right.
So I brought a suit with me, a couple of shirts,
Oh, we're going to see a picture of this.
right?
yes,
Yep.
yes.
A suit, a couple of shirts, and a briefcase.
It's amazing.
And when I got the job, on the one condition I said I'd work for you, that I could come on Fridays casual, so I could get my shirts
Terrific.
clean.
So you could do that,
Yeah.
right.
And I had no idea we were going to get a
yeah.
job, but I figured, what the heck?
But
just
we
bring
both
it.
Fantastic.
worked in Sydney, and the wonderful thing about
You also got a job
yeah,
in Sydney.
the wonderful thing about
Amazing.
working ashore is that you meet all kinds of different people that you wouldn't otherwise meet on the boat. You meet
Yeah.
wonderful people on boats and working with boats, but it was really fun to work
To go
ashore
right
and to
in
meet
there.
a whole different group of people.
Yeah, absolutely, I can
Yeah.
imagine. Well, why don't we cut to some of the amazing photographs of the trip,
Okay.
Starting with the photo of the boat that you took. Did it have a name?
Babinka,
We bought that.
Bebinka.
There it is.
And it means
Yes.
little baby in
Russian.
In Russian.
Russian.
And when you buy a
named-
boat, it's bad luck to change the name.
Yeah,
So this
so we
was the
kept it.
name
It came with.
it came with.
Yeah.
And
I
guess,
like
and
it.
this,
and guess what?
yeah.
2 years ago, we met the person who bought it from the person that we sold it to. He's lived on it for 30 years.
That's amazing.
And gone
Yeah.
3 times around the world on it and around Cape Horn twice. So that boat,
And
that
it's
little
still
boat.
called Babinka.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
That
I
little
didn't
boat
know
is
that
bound
about
around.
boats. Tell us about this photo. Who are we looking
well,
at
we were
there?
in the San Blas Islands. We made friends with these people and had them on board the boat.
yeah.
And then, and they were just wonderful. They just
Took you
embraced
in.
us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always did that. We had a lot of fun with the local people.
You were saying, Kitty was saying that was her favorite part, just
Yeah.
getting to meet all these amazing people. I know we're going to see photos of turtles and amazing sights that you saw. What's most memorable in that regard? Was it wildlife or?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
here we go.
Yeah.
the Galapagos,
Galapagos
tortoise.
tortoise, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean that's.
you don't realize when we saw
They are
the Galapagos
huge.
tortoise on our second trip, we saw the Galapagos tortoise, and we had to have on that time we had to have
guide.
a guide with us.
Yeah.
And the guide looked at and he said, "Wow, this tortoise is over 200 years old." So he was born at the time we signed the Declaration of Independence.
That's incredible. Isn't that incredible just to
Yeah.
think about that, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It really is. And so you would see, on your first trip, you were able to see things like that in their real element. There
Yes.
wasn't tourism set up, and
Right.
There
here's
was
your
no
badge
tourism.
to go in and have a look. Tell us about this photo.
This is one of the things about making friends with the local people.
Right.
Okay, Maurice McKittrick in the Marquesas in Nuka Heaven, Taiohae Bay, he ran a little general store. So we went in and we made friends with him, and we became very good friends. We even painted a mural on one of his rooms that he was going to open up as a bar.
Wow.
Anyway, to skip forward, when we came back with the kids, he remembered us. He brought us into the room, which was now his bedroom, to show us that
The mural was
and we had
painting
him
was
out,
still there.
and we had him out to the
Amazing.
boat. He brought the
Amazing.
guest book that we signed. There were 14 yachts that signed the guest book between January of '72 and January of '73. We knew almost all of them.
Amazing.
There were
Isn't
so
that
few
amazing?
boats out there.
And there were
then.
35
Amazing.
boats
Yeah.
in the anchorage.
The second time
In
when we were there.
1988.
Oh my
And
goodness.
one or two maybe in 72.
In 72, that's
Yeah.
the difference. So just to have that experience of seeing it again, which we'll talk
Yeah,
about
because
next
most
time.
people didn't want to go sailing without being able to call shore.
Right,
Or they
right.
didn't trust themselves with a sextant.
Now we have to look at this photo because this is wonderful, and we'll see it again in our
The-
next segment when you return to this exact spot with your two boys.
Yeah, that was
but
taken
that's
in
Peaks
Bora
of
Bora.
Bora Bora.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of the essence of French Polynesia. I mean,
Oh,
of
how
being out there,
romantic,
it's wonderful.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you got that photo. That's fantastic. And then you had the foresight or the backside,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess,
right.
to
Yeah,
go back
go
there
back
and
to
take
the
it
same
again.
Again,
Yeah.
yes.
Now this is when.
Okay, remember I had mentioned Eric and Susan Hiscock that
The
had
book.
written the
Were
book?
our inspiration.
Okay, we got to New
Yes.
Zealand, we pulled into a dock, and guess what? We're tied up next to Eric and Susan Hiscock. And
Just-
they invited us on their boat for dinner and had us there, and they signed our book. We had their book with us. They signed it
We
for us,
couldn't
and
have
they
met
were
the
our gods.
Prime Minister
Oh
of
my
New Zealand
gosh.
and been any more
and
thrilled.
happier.
Yeah.
Wow. And
It
that's
was-
all coincidence. There
It was
was no
all
Just
plan.
total
coincidence.
coincidence.
Wow. So that is.
Yep.
That's
And
Eric.
Eric
Yeah.
Hiscock. And
Amazing.
he was
They were
a
an
god
amazing
to us.
couple.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Are you still friendly with them since he was such a
Both
mentor?
of them have passed away.
Unfortunately, they both
Okay,
passed away. Yeah,
okay.
they
But
were.
you knew them for
Yes.
a long
Yeah.
time, I assume. That's fantastic. Oh, and here, of course.
Yeah, this is
Working
when
in
I
Sydney.
had brought a suit with me, and I'm getting off the boat to go to work.
In Sydney.
And clearly
Yeah.
it's not a Friday because
No, that's not
Fridays are
true.
casual.
And I even
here
had
you have your.
a handkerchief in my
You're,
pocket.
you're
Casual
looking
day.
very spiffy there, considering
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, as we're looking at that, and you're both working and going through both the onshore and the offshore experience. Oh, sorry, we have another photo.
Okay, well, from Sydney, Australia, we went up to New Guinea.
Right.
And as I mentioned, that was, and these kids in New Guinea were just fantastic.
everywhere were
They were everywhere, and they were everybody. You know, they were as curious about us as we were about them,
I bet. I
and they
bet.
were very friendly.
Oh, that's wonderful. So before you had kids and went, you were meeting all these wonderful children.
Yeah.
And perhaps that inspired you when you had children of your own to sort of go back and have that experience. We'll talk
Well,
about
when we
that.
had the kids,
Yeah.
Right.
then we wanted to go
You
back.
had
show them.
to,
Yeah.
to have that experience. And I think this might be our
Oh.
last photo. Which one is this?
No, this is not, but to give you, everybody asks us, or no, when we give our slideshow or something, we do a Q&A. And afterwards, I say, now here's one question, it's on everybody's mind, but you're too embarrassed to ask. That is, how much did it cost? And it cost us $3,000 a year.
Wow.
So we did a lot of fishing,
Yeah.
and we'd do diving every day and get lobsters and stuff. And that
And
picture was an
and-
example.
That's
We would
amazing.
live off the land as much as we could.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you how much it cost 20 years later when you went, but we'll talk about that next
Yeah.
session.
Okay. Okay.
But that's incredible.
But anyway, I also tell
$3,000 a
people
year.
when I say that it cost us $3,000, but
It's unbelievable.
I can tell you to the penny how much it would cost you. And that's exactly how much money you have.
That's terrific. I bet you're right about that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
bet
we
you
met-
are. Yeah,
'Cause-
you go as far as you can. So I think we'll end here because
Oh.
is this our next trip or?
No, this is
Okay.
still
This is still our
crossing,
first trip.
crossing
The
the Indian Ocean from
Okay.
here to here.
Well, it was really rough.
Oh, right.
It took 17 days, and for 14 days, it did not blow less than 35 knots. So we were down to
Oh,
a
so-
storm trysail and a storm jib, and
But making such good time,
We-
it was okay.
we were
Oh my
making
gosh.
fabulous
Because of
time.
that
Yeah.
wind. Oh my gosh.
And huge seas, but it was behind us, and we were.
And I think you mentioned you hadn't planned on that, but you were delayed. Was that when you were delayed and got caught?
No, this was.
Or that was a different time?
On the way home,
Oh, okay.
on our last little leg.
On your last leg of the trip. Well, was that a little scary, or were you just really excited that you were traveling so fast? I'm curious.
Oh,
in the
coming
Indian
across the
Ocean.
Indian Ocean?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was fine.
It was
Yeah.
fine.
It was comfortable.
And just fine. That's
Take
amazing.
a sight every day, and you did 150 miles on a 30-foot boat, and go, whoa,
How
that's
did that
okay.
happen?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh my goodness. So we have some photos of, I think it's a game reserve in South Africa. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was, we loved to see the things that, where we were.
In
with
their
local
element,
people.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with local people. And we made friends with one guy, and he took us in his
Jeep.
Jeep trail, or he called it a combi, but it
Combi.
was like an RV or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into the game reserves in South Africa,
Wow.
and there was a picture, I don't know if it had already come up yet, but of the guy that was with us. He was walking
giraffe.
towards these giraffes, and all of a sudden the giraffe leaned way down on him, and he backed up like this.
And
But it
there's
was-
no people sort of
No.
facilitating
There was-
that. This
No.
is totally
And
No,
it
unaware.
was
you're in the
just-
you're
just
in the
us.
wilds.
Just
Wow.
us, the
Just
four
us.
of us
That's
in
an
this
experience
combi.
you can't even have today.
Yeah.
probably.
No.
It's
It
incredible.
was wonderful.
That is incredible. And while you were in the Galapagos, you made some more friends. And are those the folks who took you to all the game, to see all the game? Or
You mean in South Africa?
I'm sorry, on South, yes.
Yes.
South
Yeah.
Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also had one couple we buddy boated with from St. Thomas to South Africa. They were South Africans.
They had their own boat, and we were on sort of the same path.
Same track.
Yeah, we would
Oh,
meet them.
Interesting.
In different countries.
Every once in a while. Frequently we would meet them, but we wouldn't always sail together. We did sail across the Indian Ocean together.
Wow. Now, we don't have too much time left, but I have to ask, did you stay in touch with a lot of these friends that you made, or is it just kind
Absolutely.
of
We're
goodwill
still in
when
touch.
you're there?
We are still in touch with most of the sailors
Yeah.
That's
today,
amazing.
and
A
in
lot of the
fact,
people ashore, yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people ashore. And just for an example, we were in the Solomon Islands, and we had met an Australian guy a couple of years ago who was from the Solomon Islands. And I said, "Oh, you know Checky Village?" He said, "Yeah, I know Checky." I said, "Do you know Moven Cuvée?" He said, "Yeah, I know Moven Cuvée." I said, "Listen, when you go back, you see Moven Cuvée and you say that we said hello, okay?" 6 months later, we get an email from him. "I saw Moven Cuvée and he remembers you and he says definitely say hello." Yeah.
And of course, now you can do this all through email, but
Email.
back in the beginning, you were
We were
literally
snail
sending
mail.
holiday
No,
cards
it was
and
just
snail
regular
mail. And
snail mail.
That's incredible. That's
That's right.
incredible. And of course, you came around and saw some of these people again, which we'll hear in our next
And all the
segment.
boat
Yeah.
people, the other sailors,
Right.
we're still very good friends with almost
Wow.
all of them.
That's incredible. That's really
Yeah, you form lifelong
It's-
friendships
yeah.
friendships with that, which
because
is
you've got so much in common.
yeah, that you have this drive to
Yeah.
have done
Yes.
this and this love of sailing and traveling.
And there was one other picture from our first trip. I don't know if it had come up, but of this couple, and they were New Zealanders, and they had sailed from New Zealand across the Indian Ocean. She was sick. She thought she was seasick. They were going to have to quit. Turned out she was pregnant.
Ah,
They had the baby in South Africa. When the baby was 6 weeks old, they had a 28-foot boat. They sailed from
Incredible.
South Africa up to the Caribbean, and we met
Amazing.
them.
And they
And
lost
that
it,
kid
yeah.
today is
Yeah.
fabulous.
Oh, isn't that
Very
something?
successful.
We have to say goodbye, but
Yeah.
that's an incredible way to end our story tonight. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
both
you
of
for
Thank
having
you.
us.